This is the Hiking Through Life podcast. We've all been gifted a journey called life. Let's see where the journey leads us today. Welcome to the Hiking Through Life podcast, where we talk with people who in some way, shape, or form have been influenced by the outdoors. I'm Andy, the producer of this podcast, and my lovely wife Sarah will be your host. Together, we make up Hiking Through Life.
This podcast is all about bringing all kinds of people who are inspired by the outdoors and sharing their stories.
We hope that by sharing people's stories, it inspires others to get out and live a more meaningful life. Tune in every week for new episodes, or better yet, subscribe to the Hiking Through Life podcast on your favorite podcast provider. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with others. Also, if you have a story to share or know of anyone who might be interested in being a guest on this podcast, head on over to hikingthroughlife.net/podcast and get in touch with us.
If you'd like to support Hiking Through Life, you can go to hikingthroughlife.net/shop. We have t-shirts, water bottles, and we recently added stickers to the shop.
Use the code podcast at checkout and receive 10% off your first order. There are other ways you can support this podcast as well. You can check those out at hikingthroughlife.net/support. Also, be sure to sign up for our email list. You can do that by heading over to hikingthroughlife.net. Enter your email address and click subscribe. There's no commitment. You can unsubscribe at any time. As part of our email list, you'll receive our monthly newsletter. We'll also be sending out any promotional codes for Hiking Through Life gear. It's an excellent way to follow Hiking Through Life's journey. Now sit back and enjoy this week's episode.
Welcome to the Hiking Through Life podcast. Today we are joined by Melody Forsyth, who is a mother of four and embraces the outdoor lifestyle with her family. Her youngest child, Ruby, was born with Down syndrome, and this only opened up more opportunities to the family's outdoor lifestyle. The family has a goal of visiting all the national parks. Through her social media account, Down with Adventure, she advocates for Down syndrome with positivity, knowledge, and personal stories in hopes of spreading awareness and motivating others on this topic. Welcome to the podcast, Melody.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So how did all of the outdoor inspiration begin for you? Have you always enjoyed the outdoors? I think I heard you went on a trip many, many years ago through another podcast.
Yeah, it's like a memory I tucked away in my memory that I didn't remember until thinking about it when I was much older, that I went on like a week-long through hike on the Appalachian Trail. I grew up in Virginia, so we went there, and I guess with a youth group, and I was 14, I think, at the time. So, but really have not been an outdoors person. I mean, I've always, you enjoy being outdoors, but not made it where it was a point in my life of getting outdoors and hiking and making it a point to try all these fun new activities that are in the outdoors.
So like when you had kids and like met your husband, was your husband into the outdoors?
He had been, and he tried to get me to go on a couple of hikes, like when we were dating. And I did have a child at the time. And so I remember we took her, and like I fell and scraped my knee. And like, I was just kind of like, I don't know if this is for me. So, I mean, we would go on sometimes, little walks in the neighborhood or paved trails around town or something, but not where it was like not at the level where we're doing it now. But he was more of the outdoors person at that time.
Okay. So like, was having kids kind of something that kind of carved your path for being outdoors, or was like Ruby the one that kind of inspired you guys to get outdoors?
Yeah, it was really Ruby coming along, and I guess having that panic of the unknown of Down syndrome and not knowing like what our lives were going to be like where you have that thought now of like, I'll never be able to go do this, even though it wasn't something you did. You're like, well, now I want to go try outdoorsy stuff and see what this is like. And kind of, that was kind of that outdoor trip we planned to go and visit some national parks and get outdoors, and enjoy our state of Utah, which we had never really done before. That was the thing that really just kind of precipitated everything. And then wanting to make sure she felt included and give those opportunities to her as she came into our lives. And we saw her value, and seeing that so many other children with Down syndrome are kind of not given that thought that they're able to do those things. And so we're like, no, we're going to make this happen. We're going to make this happen for her. We're going to make it happen for us. And through the years, now that it's been a couple of years of us doing this, now it's as much for the other children as it is for her, because I'm seeing how helpful the outdoors has been in the development of my other children. So I'm recognizing like, this is so important, and wish they were luckily still pretty young, but wishing I had started from the get-go, like with her, with the rest of them.
Yeah. And I read one of your posts that really stood out to me, where you were like, make sure you spend time with all of your children individually outdoors. And I mean, like what you just said, like it's helped them, their development in so many ways. And by being one-on-one with them, you've seen that.
Yeah, I did not realize how special it was to like go on hikes just one-on-one, and how much they enjoyed it. Like sometimes they'll open up and talk to me, and sometimes they're pretty quiet the whole time. I'm not saying we're having these amazing deep conversations every single time, but we'll talk about, what's going on in their lives, things they think about. But really afterwards, when they're like, Mom, I had so much fun. And when you talk later, like, what's your favorite thing? And they're like, when we get to spend time with just you by ourselves hiking, even if it's the same hike we've done a bazillion times, how much they love it. And it's been an eye-opening experience for me, as a mom, of how important that time is for each individual child.
Yeah. And like I was saying at the beginning of this, I was watching the REI video that they had made about your family, and each of your children kind of got to give themselves a little spotlight and talk about their personality and their hiking personality. And I like how your oldest daughter said she was the grumpy hiker. Would you still say she is?
She is. It isn't her jam. And I mean, this is where it was like, gosh, I wish I had found this. If we had done this from the beginning, maybe she would like it more. Maybe she would have more fun. However, I mean, now that she's married, we just went on a backpacking trip and, brought her new husband along. And that was something, this is definitely new for us because we're not used to having a child that's married. But how much fun I guess they had, and how she enjoyed being, and she like didn't complain. I was shocked. I was like truly shocked. And so I don't know if it was the dynamic of having somebody that she wanted to be with more. I don't know what it was, but that we had such a great time being together, getting to know her husband more, making this more of a, a family type of activity. And though, yeah, even though it was hard, at the end, she was just like, that was a lot of fun. And he had a lot of fun too. So we hope to make that more of especially at least a family tradition, at least, every summer, at least make one trip, do a backpacking trip together. So we're excited for, those possibilities.
Yeah, because I know in other podcasts you've talked about how because she is older than the rest of your children, and
yes.
in your perfect world, you would have all your kids there all the time hiking, but of course you need to let kids grow up and move on.
Yes.
But I did see her wedding was in the mountains.
Yeah, she had a date planned. It was still during, COVID, and we just didn't know what restrictions were going to be like. And restrictions were still, at least in our state, pretty strict, and especially on gatherings. So, I gave them the option, and they didn't want to wait. They wanted to continue. So we just found, a trail with a big kind of open pasture, and, just his family and our immediate family. And that was it. And it was beautiful. And looking back, she said it was actually a much better wedding, that it was what she wanted. Like, it was just the important people. I guess that's what it was. It was, and the surroundings were, it was such a beautiful day. It was so perfect. And I think I enjoyed it more because I was just focused on her and, her being happy and just being outdoors and the family experience, and not worried about everybody else and all the other things about a wedding day.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The pictures looked beautiful. It looked perfect. Picture perfect.
We had an amazing photographer. She does outdoor photography. She's my friend, Michelle Craig. And seriously, her outdoor photography is amazing.
Oh, how beautiful. And then your boys, would you say that, I forget the order of them, but one of them said he was the know-it-all and the nerd. Is that still kind of his hiking personality.
Yes, that is the oldest boy who just turned 13. That's Logan. And he is still very much a know-it-all and learns tons of stuff, retains information. And it's great, though. It's great because, he feels really empowered for all the things that he's learned. And he's doing online school now. And I guess they can form clubs. So he's formed his own little national park geek club with the students and does a little presentation. He just does it on his own. He loves it.
No way.
It's the cutest thing.
Awesome.
And, of course, he's like, I only have girls in my club, Mom. And I'm just like, oh, well, one day you'll like that. So, but yeah, he's just, still the same little know-it-all, but his cute little presentations and games about the national parks. I love it.
That's so cool that he's like starting a club with school. I mean, that just shows that this hiking and outdoor passion he's kind of making his own thing of it too.
Yes, he definitely is.
That's amazing. And then the younger one described himself as the goofy one.
Yeah, he's always, he's a difficult one. He's rambunctious all over the place and running and exploring and rock climbing and falling off things. And yes, but he's always the one making jokes and making us laugh and being silly. So, but he's found his thing in the outdoors. He's more of like learning about the animals and the plants and, dinosaurs and paleontology and archaeology. Like he's very much into those types of things that also take him outdoors. So
it's awesome. And then Ruby, I mean, she's probably taught all of you guys so much about the outdoors and hiking. What's the biggest thing she's brought to your family?
That you just don't give up, like of not setting the limits, on herself. Like in her head, she doesn't know she has Down syndrome. She doesn't think like, oh, because I have Down syndrome, I can't try. She just goes for everything. We're going to have to watch out for her as she gets older because she loves to climb rocks and she'll just go for things. She doesn't, in her head, this is safe, this is okay. And the boys are doing it. I'm doing it too. So I think that's the thing, is not setting the limits on yourself. Don't shortchange what you're able to do or able to accomplish. Maybe it's based on a diagnosis. Maybe it's just based on negative self-talk. But that's, I think, the biggest takeaway as I watch her. And she just goes for it with everything she's got.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like she's just always smiling out on that trail and is always so curious. And I mean, what is she, 4 or 5 now?
She just barely turned 5, yeah.
Okay, so she's not even in that pack anymore, huh?
Yeah, she's still...
She does still go in the pack. Okay.
Yeah, I think we've gotten, depending on the trail, obviously easier is better, but usually, I mean, she's done a whole mile by herself, about a mile and a half, depending on the terrain. But yeah, she does go by herself, but she tires out. Down syndrome children typically have hypotonia, which is like low muscle tone. So their muscles get more tired, like easier. And I think it's just a matter of endurance and stamina. And that's why she's like little by little working up to it. So she's been progressing little by little. But yeah, her little legs, I'm sure, get, just like any child, get tired. And so when she wants up, she definitely, starts, smacking me or my husband, holding her hands up because she's like, okay, I'm done. I'm done walking.
Because when she was really young, you guys had to also carry oxygen for her, correct?
Yes. The very, very beginning. And it was only for a few months. Yeah, we had to have the oxygen because she was still on it all day. And she's no longer, since she's been about a year old, luckily, we haven't had to. It's all day. It's just at night.
Okay. So when she was really young, you had like her on the pack, and the oxygen tanks also have their own bags too.
Well, yeah, they had like a little carrying one. So somebody else would kind of carry the bag right next to me or behind me, because there's tubing and what would go follow me while I would like go ahead.
Okay. And was that like a little overwhelming at first, or were you just like so excited to get out and just be able to show the world that you can do this?
It was overwhelming. It was daunting. It was like when people would look at us, you're all like, are they looking at us like, of what are they thinking? Are we unsafe parents? Are we pushing it too much? It's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, we definitely were a little bit overwhelmed by it. and then luckily, see, it's hard to say because luckily that was a short-lived period. That was only about 3 or 4 months that we had to do that. And then the doctors were, told us, we could go up to this many altitude. She didn't have to have it nonstop, all day long. We could just do it at night. So then it was a different story and obviously, much easier.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's amazing that you guys were still able to just get over that hump and do it. And now look at what you guys do all the time. It's so motivating. I love everything that you post on your social media account is always so inspiring and positive. You put such a positive light on this lifestyle that you are leading her into.
Well, and I try to be, I try to be positive. I try to be realistic because, I definitely don't want to give like a Pollyanna attitude of like, we're happy all the time and your family should be too, because realistically, having a special needs child is really hard and it's challenging. It's straining on a marriage. It's straining on a family. It is difficult, but this I definitely believe has been the way that we've been able to process things. And it has helped us and it's a great coping mechanism. And I mean, in life now, like even on hard days, I just learned so many times to hike it out. I'm not going to say hiking is, definitely takes the place of if you really actually need medication for depression or anxiety or anything, but it definitely for, minor issues, it's really helped me with those types of moments and has a great place of healing. And I think it has helped us heal as a family because it has brought, like, we learn to work together more effectively after doing this time after time. And it's just like this, there's so much negativity in the world and it's a hard world we're living in, so I kind of just have that attitude. We all need a little bit of light. We all need a little bit of something to help us, to encourage us. Cause even, COVID's a horrible time like this. Everybody's family is in disarray and, some people's lives have really been, affected by this and totally rearranged. And so by having a little, we're trying to find the good in, what's going on right now and what's being hard. And by doing that, like it has helped us because anytime you start realizing what you do have and, the blessings that you have and things that you enjoy, then you realize, okay, I'm really not as horrible as somebody else. Like someone else is really going through some things. So it's like, it's been a good thing for me, like stop complaining and be grateful for what we have and focus on those things. And so that's why, I do try to put a positive outlook and sharing those positive moments so that also some people can have like some hope, because I do see so many accounts of parents, especially when they receive that special needs diagnosis, whatever the diagnosis is. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to accept. And so just like that, there was that one family that I saw when we went to the national park, that was that glimmer of hope for me. And it totally changed the way we viewed everything. So we're hoping that we can be that family for somebody else, that, hey, you do have hope. There can be happiness and fun and, such a great life still.
Right. And because you said I think it was that you saw a family in a wheelchair about to go explore a national park. And they were just that moment. And you're like, wow, if they're doing it, we can do it too.
Yeah.
And it's so true that people need those moments of hope in this world, especially like you said with COVID. I mean, I'm struggling being in quarantine right now in my house, but like I have everything I need. I'm fine. Like I'm just waiting for this baby to come, but I'm totally fine in my house. I just need to keep reminding myself that I'm safe. I have plenty of food. I'm healthy. I have nothing to complain about. You just need to remind yourself of those things a lot of the time.
Yes.
So what would you say to someone who would be hesitant to bring their child out, a child with special needs out on the trail?
Everybody's circumstances are different. So I also don't want to downplay anybody else's different diagnosis because sometimes not every situation is ideal for everyone. I always tell everyone, like, obviously speak to your doctor first because there are many things to consider. Most of the time, though, I think it's just our own anxiety as a parent and our own anxiety, as a mom and just trying to do something that is challenging, because there's lots of stuff. You make sure you bring this, make sure you bring that. There's a bazillion things that can go wrong. So it's those types of things. I think a lot of us just have that anxiety as a parent. Besides doing that, and like, ask questions. That's the biggest thing, is I really feel, and find a support group. There are so many groups right now that are out there to support people, getting out in the trail. Hike It Baby, that's the first organization that I came in contact with. And they were so amazing for helping families. It's usually, birth to 5 years old. And that's like when it's the hardest time, because, there you're dealing with, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, diaper changes, potty training. Like, there's so many of those hard things of childhood that you're dealing with. And they have so many great tips. There's another organization, Wild Kind, they're on Instagram, and they're another one of supporting families getting out there and, trying to give them, if you have questions, and hook you up with other families. I mean, I'm sure there's tons on Facebook, but those are some of the organizations like I know of that are really out there for helping parents get on the trails. And I think if you find someone else to go with you, so you're not trying to do it all alone, that would, that gives confidence. That's how I was. I would kind of go with some other people once in a while, so that now, obviously, after several years, well, I have confidence because I've done it as many, many times. But in the beginning, I was just as afraid as anybody else. Like, what am I doing out here?
Absolutely. And I can't imagine, like, even a child without special needs, like bringing like your little infant out on the trail for the first time. I mean, that kind of brings me anxiety thinking about it, when that's going to be the day for us. And just going with someone who knows what they're doing, like you're saying, has got to be so helpful.
Yeah. And there are, I'm sure there's, more than those. Those are just the ones that come to my mind right now. But they're, to get out there and because Hike It Baby, they have chapters all over the US, and that, that you can find, where's my local chapter right now with COVID. The group hikes are on pause, and it is harder, but before and after, they're still on Facebook, and still, hey, this is where we went today, and it was like this, like they're still giving ideas to other parents. So maybe we can't get together as a group, but hey, I just went and did this trail, and it's totally doable and kid friendly. There's not these scary drop offs or any, like totally great for little kids, and, just giving each other encouragement and great ideas. And so, those things are still happening, even though the actual, group hikes aren't, but, they're going to come back eventually. Hopefully, things are going to return to a little bit more normalcy eventually. And, then hopefully those group hikes, and then you'll have some support to be able to get out there.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually our world will be back to the norm again. We're all waiting for that. But how you said, like, it's a lot of the time the anxiety of the parents and bringing their special needs child out on the trail. And you wrote a post back in 2018 that I thought was really strong too. It was a photo of Ruby's first day of preschool. And you wrote, "The fear when you have a special needs child. Will people be nice? Will she have friends? I know I need to keep in a bubble most of the time. I feel safe there. On the trail, I feel strong and happy and never for a moment have to think about Down syndrome or acceptance. We are just ourselves. But then I leave the trail and I worry and protect, and I am constantly reminded by others with their stares that she is different." And so you're saying, like, when you're not on the trail, you feel like you need to protect her. And that was in 2018. Do you feel you still need to protect her? Or, because a lot of the time you talk about how it's helped her confidence too, the trail has. So do you feel that's changed over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I feel like now on the trail, she has come into her own. Like, she sees us pull out the pack, she gets in. Like, she starts getting in on her. Like, she just knows this is her routine. This is how I get in the pack. She helps click the little things for the sunshade, because she likes, and I let her do it. I hold it for her so she can figure out. She clicks it. Like, she knows that is her spot. She gets all comfortable. She brings her little dolls, she's got her water. Like, she's comfortable. And then when we let her out, she just knows. Like, sometimes I've wondered, like, how does she know? Like, how does she not get off of the trail? But she just, like, knows, like, this is the trail we follow. Like, it's, a marked path, and she just goes. And now I mean, so we still have some stairs once in a while around the trail, or people that are all like, this is a really hard hike, or, things like that. Yes, of course we do. But it's like, yeah, it's not a constant reminder like it is in other situations. She's just a little kid, and she's just going, and most of the time, she's hiking with her brother. So she's just another sibling. Like that's, she's with her siblings, and it's, just like you'd hike with any other 5-year-old. So it's amazing to see, yes, her confidence has just soared and she's just so, just goes out there. Like seriously, you watch her and she learns to run, even though we're like, be careful, you're going to trip, we're the ones, I feel like we're the ones that sometimes hold her back. Like she's the one that just is like, I'm ready to just go all in and go for it. So like I said, it's definitely been a great place for her.
Yeah, because I mean, that just sounds like it's helped her sense of self, probably a lot of her physical development, like the walking on the trail, like that's huge physical development for her too.
Absolutely. Just because as with all children as they're developing, but just her sense of spatial relationships, like she sees the rocks, she knows when it's rocky, and to watch her navigate and help her get herself down. Now, probably another 5-year-old might just, be walking down and just be careful. And so she kind of sometimes will sit and scooch, and maybe that's just for her sense of security, but she recognizes like, this isn't a stable terrain. This is very stable. When it's sand, going in the water, and then she loves loves splashing in puddles. Yesterday, we couldn't get her out of everything, and her shoes and her socks totally soaked, but just, bouncing, the sounds, it's helped. Yeah. Sensory wise, because sometimes, they can have sensory issues because, they, don't like sounds or textures. And I think that, exposing her at such a young age has definitely helped her, overcome that, so that she is okay walking barefoot. She's okay wearing her shoes, where sometimes, I know, at least for children with Down syndrome, sometimes those things, they bother them because, they don't like shoes or don't like anything weird touching their feet. And so those are, obstacles that, kind of have to be overcome. But, for her, because I think at such a little young age, she was exposed to it, she's been doing well with it. And yeah, her little leg muscles, I mean, she has energy. It wears out quickly, but when she goes, she's got a lot of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And like with any 4 or 5-year-old, any preschooler, they're going to lose energy. They're just going to want to sit on the trail whenever they want to sit on the trail. And most 4 and 5-year-olds are going to want to splash in water and do all these things that you're saying Ruby loves to do. So, I mean, she's so similar to any other 4 and 5-year-old that would be out on the trail too. But yeah, that's so interesting that you say you feel it's helped her sensory development too, because even we go outside at our preschool every day, and you can see a difference in like some of the special needs kids when they're outside versus when they're in a classroom in a confined space. There is a huge difference of the noise they're in, the lighting they're in, the sound around them, just everything. The outside makes a huge difference, and everything you just said is totally laying it down for proven points. So I totally see that too. And I mean, other things that you need to consider. I mean, you said she runs ahead of, does she like run ahead of you, but she's never run off the trail?
Yeah, she really hardly ever goes off the trail. Obviously we don't let her just run. Like if there's some place that's got like, drop offs or anything, she does go on them. Like we're letting her now, she holds somebody's hand. Like we are trying to little by little, kind of push her just so that she, gains more confidence and we're able to do different trails. But she pretty much, she'll stay a lot with her brothers. That's primarily who she'll hike with, is just, her brothers. So she'll stay, but a place like, especially if it's familiar to us and we're very familiar, or it's very stable and there's no dangers, where it's, nice, big, wide open path. There's no drop offs. There's nothing. She goes, she's never really far ahead of us, but we let her go ahead and just let her do her own thing. more than often, truthfully, she'll probably sit down on the trail and start playing with the rocks because that's like her favorite thing to do. So sometimes for us, it's more of a, we don't have time to let her explore every single rock where we're going back, headed back or something. And so we're just kind of like, all right, you're going back in the pack because we got to, we got to head out. But when we have time, then it's just like sometimes, yeah, all right, we'll take 3 steps and sit down and here's another rock and here's another rock, and she's having a blast.
Yeah, exactly. If you went at a preschooler's pace, you would be out there for a month at a time.
Yes. Yes.
But that's the beauty of children. They teach us to slow down, right?
Yes, absolutely. Things that you didn't see or just because we're waiting. Like recently, we were kind of just sitting there in Glacier National Park she was sitting there on the trail. So we're just kind of waiting. And then all of a sudden this deer just kind of popped up, but like was really, really close to us. So it was just kind of cool that, would get that. I mean, I was a little frightened because I'm like, okay, don't anyone spook the deer because they're really, really close. Usually they're far away, and that was just a cool experience because, we're able to, slow down and just kind of take everything in.
Right. And that's your husband's job, right? Pointing out like the wildlife. I think that's what he said his job was.
Oh, yes. Sometimes I always make fun because he'll say some weird name for some bird and I'm like, oh, it's a pink flamingo, like in the middle of the desert or whatever, just because I'm like, it's so weird, the random things he sees. But actually, so our funny experience was when we were in Glacier, I was actually driving back, and it's the one time and it's dusk. And so all the kids were like yelling or screaming, doing whatever they were in the back. And my husband actually was bending down, looking for something in his pack. And it was the only bear that we saw there. And it ran across the road. And I'm like, a bear! I saw a bear! I was so excited. But it seriously ran across the road. And everyone was just like, yeah, sure, it's a bear. I'm like, no, I really saw a bear. And so they still make fun of me for that.
Right, because they just think you're making it up.
They're all like, we didn't see it. So yeah, that's what my husband does all the time.
Yeah, that's great. It's not true unless everyone else sees it.
Exactly.
I know. We never saw a bear in Glacier. We were there last summer and never saw one, but people kept telling us they saw them too.
Yeah.
So how many national parks have you guys been to?
We so far have been to 28.
28. Okay.
So we're almost about at that halfway point. Almost.
And you have like the passport, right?
Oh,
where you get stamps?
Yeah. Yes. So it's been 28 of national parks, and I think we have like 26 national monuments and historic sites.
And how do you think the national parks do with special needs families and children? Do they?
They do a great job in the fact, like at least usually like on the hikes. I mean, they always say which ones are wheelchair accessible. So that, if it's wheelchair accessible, that, it's going to be either something paved or very, relatively flat, not a lot of elevation gain or an easy trail. And usually the scenery is just as amazing. I really wish, but I mean, I understand it is hard, but I really wish there were more, wheelchair accessible trails, so that they would be more accessible to a lot of people. But I know in like some national parks, like this year we went to Great Sand Dunes, and they have a special wheelchair that is designed to go on the sand, because obviously you can't take a regular wheelchair on the sand. That's designed for people so they could be able to at least go out to the sand dunes and go out and experience it. And I thought that was amazing. So I hope we can see more things like that for people of different abilities so that they can be able to have those same amazing experiences.
Right, absolutely. And even thinking about like elderly people who might not even be in wheelchairs, but just need a more stable ground to be able to walk on, rather than the rocks and the dirt and the uneven terrain, just making it more accessible to all ages and generations.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great that they have that wheelchair though. I have seen some cool companies out there that just have really advanced technology with their wheelchairs, and it's cool to think where we'll be in like 10 years from now, 5 years from now.
Yeah.
With that type of technology.
Be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as you and hiking, like it seems like you go out and do a lot of your own hiking just for like your own well-being. So how often do you make it a point to like do hikes on your own?
I think it's just been over the past year or so, and especially I love girl trips. Those are like, it's always fun to get out with, people that I work with or other friends that I've met, through Instagram, in the outdoor community, and go to, retreats and just meet other women and talk to them and see, because it's like we all find this like amazing, healing in the outdoors. And I love talking to other women about it. It's been so, I don't know. I know that like it feels like the word's overused, healing, but it really is because, like I was saying, being a mom itself first, is a hard job. Being a mom with 4 children is hard. Being a mom with a child with Down syndrome, and it just makes everything, it does make things more difficult. That sometimes I need time to get away too. I have to give and give and give and give, and I'm happy to give, but I need to be able to pull from somewhere. And that for me, I have discovered that's where I'm able to kind of fill my cup, as they say. I'm able to fill my well so that then I can give to others, is that little time away for me. And so this year it has been very sad that there just hasn't been, I had so many amazing plans for some really fun retreats. Luckily I was able to go to one in February before, all of this happened. And it's just like, it's time for myself, time for me to reflect. And then I feel like when I come back home and it's the craziness, I'm like, okay, I can cope. And as I've learned that about myself, that's why I've made more time to do those things so that it's easier for me to be a little bit of a calmer mom, be a little bit nicer, have a little bit more patience if I've done those things to kind of take care of myself as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we all need those self-care moments, in order to be able, like you said, fill other people's buckets, you have to fill your own first and make sure you're doing good first. Absolutely. So would you say that like you lose your mama calm on the trail more so? Like, is it easier to stay calm on the trail with your kids, or is it easier to stay like calm back home?
Oh, it's easier to be calm on the trail for sure. There's too many distractions, I get distracted by my phone just as much as everybody else. Or sometimes I'm like, I should be doing this, I'm putting Netflix on, like there's too many distractions. But on the trail, most of the time, like either then I don't have reception or it's limited, or there's so many other things. Like I had a really hard time with something last week and I was just like, I'm just going to go, it was really close to the house. I'm just going to go by myself. I'm just going to listen to a podcast and just kind of disconnect. But as I started walking, I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to a podcast. I just want to listen to my thoughts. I just want to like be with my feelings, be with my thoughts. And it was just like, it was crazy. It's like I went through this whole therapy session throughout the whole hike of like feeling upset and angry and depressed and, mad and all these things. And as I listened to my breathing and I kind of pushed myself and realized, and then as I turn around and because it was kind of like a loop and start heading back, I just started to feel happier and lighter and just felt like, okay, I can cope with this. I can deal with this and recognize, the same thing of going, I'm blessed. I have so many things to be grateful for. This is something that's just temporary. It'll pass. I'll get through it. And I'm just like, and that coming home and then I'm like, I really can't believe how much better I feel right now. And you have those experiences. And then that's when I'm like, okay, I need to do this more because this is very helpful for me.
And that's something so simple, like just going out on a walk and sitting in your own thoughts. And like, as you were describing that, like kids need that too. They like when they're like way up here and like in overdrive, like whether it's in a classroom or at home or on a hike, like they just need to sit in their own thoughts too and have their own time also.
Yeah.
Instead of like having adults like continuing to talk to them, they need to process it all by themselves too, just like we do.
Yeah, that's why we try to, make a point when they're like, well, I want to just kind of sit here for a while. Okay. Like of where they do what they want to do instead of always what we want to do. That, hey, I want to play with these rocks, or can we play in the river for just a little bit? Like that's what they're feeling. And so I have to remind myself, like, okay, it's not about, reaching the destination or whatever. Like they're trying to tell you, they need some time to think or do whatever, or maybe they just, to play and be a kid and, throw rocks in the lake or whatever, that they need that time too. Just like I recognize, okay, I need my time. That's their time too. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you ever find that, like, if Ruby has like a high need on the trail or at home, do the other kids ever have a hard time understanding that with her, or are they pretty good about that?
Well, that's an very interesting question, because I have learned when you have a child with special needs, unfortunately, a lot of times the tension does get shifted to them. And as I've actually talked to my other children and they've actually voiced, like, I feel like I'm not as important, or I feel left out, or I feel like it's all about Ruby. It has certainly opened my eyes to their feelings and how much I need to also focus on them. Obviously, I think all of my children are special in their own, way. And obviously I love them all equally. They don't see that. Kids don't always understand that. They just see like where all the attention's going. They don't know that in my heart, like, I would do anything for any of them. And so that's where it's been something like I've had to actually, and I've talked to them of, sometimes, yes, we do have to give, each of you guys your own attention and make you feel special and make you, the center of attention. We're not always trying to make Ruby the center of attention, but I go, especially like when people, question or film us or all that stuff, and kind of the focus is around Ruby. I keep telling her, I'm just like, let's just be grateful that these people are celebrating, because guess what? People aren't going to celebrate her in the world. People aren't going to be nice to her. It's not like, each of you guys are going to go and, have a great normal experience like most other people and not be judged based on what you look like or your diagnosis. And so let's be grateful for when we do, people celebrate Ruby. Let's be grateful, because we don't know what it's going to be like for her. And that's kind of been the biggest thing where they've recognized of not thinking about themselves and thinking about others. And that, we do as a family, that's, we're going to be her biggest cheerleaders, and we want, to celebrate her. So sometimes it is all about her, unfortunately, but that's why we also try really hard to make it that other things then are all about the other kids, always celebrating their accomplishments, always making sure and reassuring them how much they're loved, how special. And it's not just those things, but I really love to point out, like, Ruby wouldn't be Ruby without their love. Like, they seriously are like the best kids to her. They love her so much. And that I can tell that with each one of them, that they love her and they treat her just like any other kid. Her brothers throw her around, and wrestling and chasing after her. Like, they do all the things like they would do. And that's honestly, that makes me so happy as a parent, like, to see them love her. Her big sister, she loves her. Like, they all love her so much. And I think that that's teaching them how to act in the world. And so that's why I'm like, I'm okay with sometimes of like, okay, we're going to make it all about Ruby, because truthfully, I feel that she's here for us. It's not the other way around. We're not here for her. She's here for us. She's here to teach us, because it's been such a humbling experience of all the things that I've had to learn and how I need to be better and how I can improve, not only as a parent to, her, but to my other children, as a wife, as a friend, as a coworker. Like, it's always eye-opening to me. So yeah, they've kind of learned that, sometimes it is all about Ruby on the trail, but I think that they're all okay with it and they understand why now.
Yeah. And like you said, in the long run, this is going to be so good for them later on. Like, they're going to know how to treat people with special needs better because of a sister that they have been living with and seeing day to day. like they're going to be so much stronger, and they're just going to be advocates for it in daily life. Like, I mean, you're such an advocate for it, and I'm sure the older siblings are, it's laying a huge foundation for them to be advocates for it. And she's probably just taught them so much about love and values and compassion and just everything. It seems like such a gift to your family.
Absolutely. She truly is a gift.
Yeah. And just, I love she's just the sweetest little, her photos. I just love seeing them. I know everyone does, but just love seeing her smile.
I do want to start sharing. I need to start sharing. I have been capturing some more like real moments of some meltdowns and her side eye when she's like not happy, just to show like she obviously is not happy all the time. And we're showing, the highlights, but she really, I mean, I'm going to say honestly, like there's so much of the time she does. She's just pure happiness and just so go with the flow for so many things that it is. She really does bring a lot of light in our house.
Yeah. Well, and when you read like your stories that go with the pictures, like you're sharing some of the not so pretty moments of her, of life, of day-to-day things, of parenting, of all the things that come with life. It's so when people read into it, they do see that. I think I see that at least.
Okay, I'm glad. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, didn't you just speak for like a big organization about Down syndrome?
Yeah, No Boundaries. They are, I guess, organizations. So they're all about, inclusivity and diversity outdoors and just trying to get people from all different walks of life and making the outdoors more inclusive. And I think that, at least for me personally, where our eyes have been open to all the problems with racism in the world. And I think, so many of us are learning to refocus on how we teach our children and how we can be better. It's definitely brought up the light of like inclusion in the outdoors and diversity in the outdoors, and that everybody wants to see people like them in the outdoors. And there have been some amazing people that I've been following, some amazing people in the outdoor, Black people in the outdoors, and showing that, hey, we're out here and we are, doing all these amazing things just like everybody else. And I love it. So it's the part with, with Ruby. So talking about, there are tons of people that have different abilities in the outdoors, people of all sizes in the outdoors. And that's kind of, what we're trying to show, so that, other people can say, hey, there's people like me in the outdoors, that people will see, okay, there's a child with Down syndrome. And so let's get more children with Down syndrome out on the trail. More children with Williams syndrome, more children with cerebral palsy. There's just so many of them that I know that they're out there and they're doing amazing things. And so we need to be shedding that light so that we can show that, the outdoors truly are for everyone. It doesn't matter your size. It doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter your economic background, like that we need trails accessible for everyone, especially the people, if their abilities, that we need to, more trails accessible for people that, they don't have two legs that are easy to walk on. Like we need to have it because, we're all finding how much healing the outdoors are doing, and everybody, everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting like just people that look like others outdoors. That's so huge. I love that. It's great to know that there's so many organizations out there doing that.
Yes.
If people wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh, like I said, I'm on Instagram, Down with Adventure. I'm pretty sure it has a link for my email, so you can email me, direct message me. I try to answer all my direct messages. So, and I said, love to chat if you ever need some encouragement. I love, those are my favorite. Those are my absolute favorite messages, when somebody has referred my account to somebody else that just has a diagnosis. Usually it's for Down syndrome, but sometimes it's for something else. And for them to say, wow, you gave me some hope. You gave me some happiness that, I'll be able to get through this diagnosis. I love that. So I love hearing those stories. And always appreciate when people share that.
Yeah, because I think you, in another podcast, you even said that when you found out that you were going to have a child with Down syndrome, someone came over and said, like, this is going to be your biggest gift in life. And at that point, you didn't quite understand what they were talking about. And
Yeah.
now you're clearly understand what that is and understand way beyond.
Yeah, we're on the other side of it, of accepting it and working with it and dealing with it every day. And so, yeah, we want more people to, recognize just her beauty, what she brings to us, and just recognize, what an amazing quality of life she has and how much she brings to our home.
Thank you so much for talking, Melody. This has been really informative, really enlightening, and I'm really excited to share this one with our listeners.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate people that are interested in what I have to say. So we're very grateful for letting us, share our message with others.
We've loved doing this podcasting journey. We love bringing awesome guests on. We love seeing that people are listening. And we're really, really grateful that this is hopefully inspiring other people to get outdoors.
Yeah, and as part of our mission at Hiking Through Life, we really want to help support others in continuing their journey or starting their journey into the outdoors. So as part of that, we have plans for future episodes to address some listener feedback. So if you have questions about backpacking, hiking, adventuring outdoors, let us know. Email hikingthroughlife@gmail.com and submit us your question or topic, and we'll possibly address it in a future episode.
You've been listening to the Hiking Through Life podcast. Peace, love, and hike through life.